Oh, we could, yeah. Once Scott gets here, we can go back to it, sure.
Okay, we'll do that.
I missed most of the discussion, so I'm not sure I can vote on the minutes.
Vote on them, but you probably should have stayed since you're not sure if they're correct or not.
Let's respect, be respectful here of the council. Changes? Okay. Any approve the bills submitted for payment? Karen?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Second. Motion by Mr. Monahan,
I have
second by
two,
Gordon.
I have two questions, I think they're both
Directed to you, Craig.
spray gun and tip for
Yep.
Diamond Vogel, where we using that for?
It's the one we use for striping Main Street and striping, yep.
Okay. And the other one, the cutting edges for the maintainer,
Yep.
our plan. Didn't we used to give them Beaverville, didn't we?
Oh, no, this is, for the maintainer. The ones we get from Beaverville are the ones
For the
for
bucket.
the push plow. Or not push, the, two-way plow off the, for the payloader.
Oh.
Yep. These are actually a curved blade, so,
Oh, it's a cutting edge of the maintainer?
Yeah.
So they just a Super Bowl? We mail order?
no, it's either on Sioux Falls or otherwise there's another company on Chief, which where those guys got them at. We usually shop around and see because they're spending blades, so.
No. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Karen? Okay, we'll vote. Mark?
Yeah.
Ryan? Yep. Brad? Yep. Doyle?
Yes.
Passes. Any visitors wish to be here for anything that's not on the agenda? 7:05, public hearing, application for package off-sale liquor license for Harms Oil Company. Teresa.
Jeff Harms with the Hartford Coffee Cup submitted an application to the city to get a package off-sale liquor license. City has just one off-sale available, all around on sale or gone, but we have the one off-sale available, and this will allow them to sell packaged liquor. They already have a license for the malt beverage, but this would be packaged liquor. There would be no consumption, have to go off-sale.
Do we have that application because somebody doesn't have it now, or is it just one that the population says we can have that never got it?
The population states we have one left.
So nobody didn't renew it or nobody lost it? It's
No.
just one that we have that
This one
nobody
we had
wanted?
available.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the application for off-sale liquor license for Arms Oil Company.
Second.
Second by Doyle. Any further discussion? Vote. Doyle?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Brad?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yep.
Motion passes. Resolution 2015-6, resolution of unclaimed property. Teresa.
Okay, this resolution is in your packet. As you may recall, when we had the new auditors come in earlier this year, there were some outstanding checks still on our books that were quite a few years old, and they recommended to us that we write those off our books. And the amounts that were under $50, we could just do that by a council motion, what we did, and we did that. We have these three that are listed on the resolution here that were over $50, so we have to pass a resolution to basically write them off our books, and then we have to send this unclaimed property, this monetary amount, to the state to go on the unclaimed properties list. We gotta do that in November here, so this resolution will allow us to do it, and it'll clear those amounts off our books.
I move to approve resolution 2015-6, resolution for unclaimed property.
Motion by Doyle, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. Discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Mark?
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yep.
Doyle?
Yes.
Brad?
Hey, you can be me if you want, John. Okay.
All right, first reading of ordinance 624. Teresa.
This ordinance just goes in conjunction with, at our last meeting, we had the rezoning hearing on the Mathis property along Western Avenue. We had the public hearing, there's no opposition, the council voted to rezone it. So now we're just passing the ordinance to actually do that legally.
Okay.
This will be first reading, we'll have second reading at the next meeting, and then we can send it on to the county.
approve first reading of ordinance 624.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Any discussion on this ordinance? If not, we'll vote. Ryan?
Yep.
Doyle?
Yes.
Mark?
Yep.
Brad?
Yes. What am I trying to?
You okay, Mark?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay.
Got him while he's drinking some water. You got it?
They were all yes.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 625.
Okay, basically the same scenario, but this is on the Aston property right east of town. We have held the public hearing at our last meeting and approved the rezoning, so now this is the ordinance to accompany that, to rezone that property. This will be first reading of this ordinance too.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 625 in regards to rezoning, the zoning ordinance as stated here.
Brad? For a second.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Any discussion on this ordinance 625? Vote. Mark?
Yeah.
Doyle?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yep.
Okay, old business is discussion of the Chamber Economic Development Director position and job description. Since Scott's not here, we'll just wait a little bit. How long did he say he was gonna be?
You say about 7:30?
7:30 is what he thought.
Then if we go into new business, that's something that Scott brought up. We could talk about the Vandemark lot, the Vandemark lots, purchase offers. We can go to that.
As I indicated, in your packet, we had an offer come through from the gentleman here in town, an offer on the two lots along Vandermark Avenue that the city originally purchased and we transferred to the HADC. Since that time, actually today, I got another offer in on those lots, and there's that scenario I put on the desk in front of you. There's offer one, and then there's offer number two. They're a little different scenario. Offer one is, for both the lots, of course, it's the cash offer. They're gonna erect 2 single-family homes on the lots. Nothing needs to be changed as far as the covenants, they'll meet the setbacks, whatnot. Offer two is a little higher offer, but they wanna do a contract for deed over a 2-year period at 5%. This scenario is, they wanna move in the home that was presented to you guys probably about a little over a month ago, a month and a half ago. That, they're gonna bring in, redo the siding on it, the roof, the interior, put that on one of the lots, and then the other lot, they indicated they will either build a home on that lot, or maybe if they can find another home to move in there, but they don't know at this point if they'll find another home, one or the other scenario. Now with that one, if we're gonna allow a home to be moved in, we will need to change the covenants on it.
Do we have to do that every time? Because we already did it once.
The covenants, I mean, we didn't actually change the covenants because that deal didn't go through with the earlier offer. So we haven't touched the covenants yet.
So do you have to change the covenants per deal, or can we just change it?
Oh, we can change it if you guys
Well, I
want.
thought
Right
that's-
now, the covenants say they have to be on-site built, that we can't move any in. So that's the issue with the covenants. If you
See, I
guys
thought
wanna
we-
allow a home to come in, we can just change the covenants.
I thought we just changed it in general. But we didn't, we just changed it for that
So
one
we didn't move
specific.
forward with it because, after the council agreed to move that home in, the gentleman making the offer retract, or, never got back in touch with us and never went through on the deal, I guess, so we didn't do anything with it. But right now, they're just as is, they were passed.
What if we just blanket change the covenant to say somebody could bring a house in if it cleared planning and zoning?
I kinda like the way it's written now, so that way, we kinda get to see what we're bringing in and got control over that too.
Because if we change it now, they could just bring in another mobile home or modular type home or something like that.
Well, they wouldn't be able to bring in a mobile home because that's against city ordinance completely. It has to go into a trailer park for
Okay.
that. But you don't know what kind of shape or what kind of home they'll bring in. I mean,
Right.
like I said, they at least then have to come before you to,
Correct.
like I said, see the plans or see what it looks like.
Is anybody here from Smith Development Company? No?
The gentleman I talked to, I don't see them yet.
Okay.
What if we made a counter offer on number one? And not worry about number two.
It's all up to them.
I mean, we could get the same result with offer one,
Right, I agree.
probably counter offer, and then you need a motion to that effect?
Well, you know, technically, the HADC owns the lot, so it would be a recommendation from the council
Motion to recommend.
to recommend whether you take 1, 2, or counter offer 1, 2, or however you want to do it, but it'd be, yeah, be a motion for recommending.
Well, I make a motion that we recommend a counter offer on number one for $22,500 per lot.
I'll second for discussion.
Good.
You guys have anything to say?
Thoughts on that one?
Don't know anything about it. I've seen it.
No. The one offer came in late Friday, that offer number 1 that was in your packet, and the second offer came in today.
This is public meeting, so it's not top secret.
No.
Offer one is from Brad Meehan, $20,000 per lot,
Cash.
cash money. Offer 2 is from Tom and Brady Smith for $22,500 per lot, but we have to change the covenant, and it's the city doing a 2-year contract for needed 5% annually.
And then moving house.
And that's the one that needs a covenant change.
They're the one that asked for a contract, the second offer.
Yeah.
Were they appraised, Mark?
They weren't.
Welcome, Scott.
We're at 24.5, is that what we're?
Yeah, that's what we were asking, was 24.5. But we were willing to do 18 for Jim Johnson, that last deal, but.
Well, that was through HUD though. so-
Right.
That fell through.
And I'll go
We
through.
never did have it written.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything with them, and like I indicated, I have not heard from him. I don't think James Gordon has heard from him either for a while, so I have no idea where that's sitting, and
I
we
guess
haven't signed anything with him.
I guess I'm thinking, Mark, I don't necessarily wanna fight over.
So Brad will build new homes there?
Yeah.
I just talked to him.
I'd be fine with 22.5 if you'll do the 22.5.
He kind of indicated to me they would be,
In one house,
He's only moving in one house?
well, mine will move in one.
Moving in one and that's a 22.5 offer
Okay,
with financing for 2 years.
okay. I'm sorry for being late.
That's fine.
It was, first by Monahan, second by who?
Ryan,
Okay.
and we're just in discussion, so if you got any questions, about that on that? All right, we'll go back to old business for discussion. Oh, sorry. We'll go back and approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Scott, since you weren't here, we didn't have enough votes to approve the
So moved.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were just waiting for me. Let's get it out of there.
No, we need a, the motion was by,
Ryan, second by Brad.
okay,
Everyone voting yes, Doyle abstaining.
now you can say,
So moved.
thank you.
Yep.
We're right there.
Don't be late, it's the bottom line here, guys, right?
So then old business discussion, of the Chamber Economic Development Director position and job description. Before we get into this one, I just wanted to throw it out there, I didn't do this last time, I just wanted to throw it out there, that I would suggest that if there's any council people that would be interested in applying for the position, that they recuse themselves from, the discussion. But, that being said, this discussion point without Bill being here, we're gonna have Brad talk a little bit about what his meetings with Doyle and Scott and HADC and the chamber went. And they brought up some points and provided to the council for what they feel would be a good starting point for a economic development director description. What I'd like to ask the council is to try to do a special meeting on Wednesday next week. And just for the economic director position description and get it hammered out. We're gonna sit here and talk and let Brad give an update. And then in fact, Teresa, you had something from Eric Fong. I don't think we're gonna have time tonight without Bill being here. I'd like to have all the council.
Bill gave me his regards, wish he could be here, but he's in Louisville, I think now, this very second.
I think the way to go next is Brad, you wanna kind of go over what you guys, you had several meetings and how it all went?
I'll just kind of start from the beginning. I know I gave everyone kind of a high level last time, but just to kind of reiterate, based upon proposal that there were no major, hopefully no major changes, but we can certainly see where things kind of fall out. So what we put together, we kind of had a couple different goals. I've already shared that the main goal was to make sure that every group was set up for success with the support of the position. But we really wanted something that was a little bit more condensed. We got it down to really 2 pages in which kind of flipping through what other communities had provided. It feels to be in line with length. Again, we kind of went through and negotiated a few things. So I'm just going to jog through here quickly and highlight a few things. The title of the position, we felt it was important to leave it as Chamber and Economic Development Director, so that has not changed. Within the definition of the position, the previous job description had included working directly under the direction of the council, city administrator, and the mayor. There were discussions that there was lots of cooks in the kitchen, and maybe that created some headaches, and so we felt that the position could be managed with it just being directly under the direction of the city administrator as well as the mayor. Moving down into the essential job functions, we touched on some of the meetings. We know that we've had concerns with what meetings were being attended, so we kind of listed out some of the major ones being the HADC, chamber, and city council meetings on a regular basis. But really leaving it to the city administrator to assign him or her additional meetings to attend as needed, and listed out some examples of what maybe those would be, including like economic development related workshops, seminar, conferences, etc. The second bullet kind of talks about assisting the Chamber of Commerce, HADC, and the City of Hartford, including subcommittees with grants, as well as special loans to help each group meet their specific objections. And so we felt that that was important. Grants were included within the current job description, so we just try to spell that out a little bit more clearly. One of the areas that we had lots of discussion was in regards to RFI requests. I guess based upon just some questions and answers with Scott and Doyle and I, and speaking with Justin and Lyle from the HADC, what's the RFI process and how does that work today? I didn't have a clear understanding, so it certainly helped shine some light on me, but then RFI request comes in, HADC reviews it, and then from there they were choosing whether we responded to that or not. And so we kind of spelled that out a little bit more clearly here. Some of the major changes that we had here were within the current job description today, or the current process today. If an RFI request is going to be responded to that's outside of city limits, the city council would need to provide approval. What's being proposed here is any RFI request that would take place within 3 miles of Hartford. It would just require the HADC to ask the economic director to respond to that. If the approval, or if the proposal would be outside 3 miles or more outside of the Hartford city limits, that approval could be granted by the city administrator or the mayor. The intent here is to try to provide some timeliness in regards to responding to those RFI requests and allow a bit more flexibility. We did discuss confidentiality in regards to how are things set up today, and should that look a little bit different. And I think all in all, we felt the current process for confidentiality would continue to work, so we just try to lay it out a little bit more clearly here in regards to still maintaining a database of past, current, and future projects that can be accessed by the city administrator and mayor. We define some of the aspects that should be included within that database as kind of a minimum starting point, along with listing out residential, office, retail, and industrial space that's available. And the process of collecting, maintaining, and retaining the information would be determined by the city administrator and mayor, with the EDD. This next bullet point is in regards to creating an annual economic development plan for the city of Hartford. This is something Mayor Campbell had touched base on earlier with his presentation a couple of weeks ago at the last city council meeting. We felt, even prior to that point being made, that something similar should be created. And so we tried to lay that out clearly here, what we felt should be included within that, along with identifying short and long-term goals of economic development for our community. The last bullet underneath this section is kind of the catch-all, complete administrative duties as assigned by the city administrator and mayor. So if there are special things that come up that we feel that he or she should be taking care of, we would be able to assign those as needed, or if the workload just isn't there, we can continue to keep that position busy. Underneath the required knowledge and abilities, this was quite a cumbersome list that's within the current job description, so we went through, removed anything that could be assumed as minimum requirements for the job, and tried to condense these down into the 5 bullet points provided here. Underneath minimum qualifications, we also talked about included verbiage in regards to experience being previous relevant experience in economic development is preferred. We may get candidates, being only a town of 3,000 people, maybe the candidates don't have a lot of experience, maybe they're just coming straight out of school. So we kind of loosened that up a little bit. And lastly, one other thing that we did provide here was some basic graphic design and web maintenance knowledge is preferred, because we do have our chamber and HADC websites. And from my understanding, Gary created some graphics to help display what downtown could look like. So that was certainly a great request by the chamber and the HADC, or a good recommendation there. In regards to compensation, I'll read what we have here. Compensation for this position will be set by the Hartford City Council, which may include additional incentives for obtaining economic development goals. We did not discuss in detail what we thought those additional incentives should be, but thought similar verbiage would kind of leave that open, and something that we can iron out later if it were to remain within the job description. So, high level, those were some of the changes and key bullet points that I wanted to highlight that we discussed, and again, everyone was able to nod that they felt that the job description was, would set every group up for success, and we walked away from the conversation knowing that the council ultimately makes the decision, and there may be revisions made, but thought that this would be a great starting point, so.
Thank you, Barry. Doyle or Scott, do you have anything to add?
I just want to make sure I add that Brad did an awesome job compiling all this. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You really did a good job putting it in a nutshell. In regards to, no, everything's fine. Nothing else to add.
Any of the council people have any questions for Brad or Scott or Doyle on this? I mean, I think it's great too, it's a lot of work, I know you have a lot of time in it. Thank you to the HADC and the chamber for providing some input on it. So, I would like to call that special meeting on the 28th, on Wednesday, the 28th at 7 o'clock. Would everyone here be able to make it? Mark?
I think so.
Brian? Yep. Brad?
Could be there till 8.
Could be till 8? We could do it at 8 then. Would 8 work, Mark?
Better ring.
Okay, Brian?
Yep.
8. Scott, would 8 work for you on the 28th?
Marking it down.
Okay. I already talked to Bill on the way down here about this, so I think it should work for him. So that's when we'll do, and that way we nail it down and then get it advertised and start seeing what we get in for applicants.
I just have a question on that, and will it be nailed down on Wednesday night then?
On Wednesday.
So we can get it advertised?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll nail it down so that we can approve it at the next council meeting, and then also at the next
We should go through it, we should go through it at that meeting.
Yeah, it's a meeting, yeah, you can make a motion at the.
If we can, I'd like to,
So I wanted to make sure that we had everything in place.
I think we need
Get it written, but that's okay.
I think we need to get in this room and nail it down and get it
That's
done.
fine, that's my misunderstanding.
That's fine. That's my goal, is to get it nailed down next week and then get it advertised
I hope so.
to the city, so.
My goal was tonight.
So then we move into new business, review the job description for full-time public works assistant. Scott, is there something you have to put on there?
Yeah, three of us, well, four of us, including Brad and I, we kind of, went through this last year, and, I've had a chance to chat with Terry a couple times, and Craig, and, just go through some scenarios that kind of sparked me to request that we make this a full-time position with the minimum qualifications reading something on the order of, it's not specific to this, high school graduate, but not required, or like-kind experience in the job parameters, something of that sort. Now, Teresa, if you got something else that you wanna, do that to that, that'd be fine. And the primary reason for this request is, as you guys well know, currently, our regular part-time, full-time, Terry Hayden, has to cut out on occasion, especially when it comes to snow removal and something like that. You might put 11 hours in one day, and suddenly a water main breaks on a Friday, and Craig or Neil might be, we had a couple occasions this summer where both Craig and Neil were gone, and it was just Terry and Jesse, and Terry had to leave early, or essentially early. I feel that the city of Hartford has grown to the point where having two people on staff, being able to have that capability, is extremely important. I feel this is the key to making that happen. Another thing is, after Karen, thank you very much for the breakdown on the comparison of current pay, part-time versus full-time. The difference up to January to date is $380. We're not talking about, a substantial amount of difference as far as pay goes. Naturally, with this full-time position, overtime does apply. Craig, I'll ask you, your gut feeling, if this position was approved, to a full-time status, would you anticipate there be a huge amount of overtime required for this position on a yearly or monthly basis?
No, not really. I mean, but if you ask me if we think we're gonna we cut overtime with hiring this position, I don't think we'll cut it, because we have plenty, I mean, we're busy.
Yeah, and I know that,
So,
yeah, and so, I just wanna make sure that, for the citizens of Hartford, I feel, and I've seen it happen 4 times on my street, and you can, on Kelly Avenue, 4 or 3, where the water main breaks and it's a Saturday, and you guys gotta come in. Well, you certainly would be resourceful if, you had that flexibility. You might be at Sturgis or on a boat in Minnesota. Neil might, God knows where Neil will be. So in some of these jobs, especially like working on a water main break or something like that, is a 2-man job. Otherwise it's kind of dangerous otherwise.
Minimum 2.
Yeah, and so this is my motivation for bringing this up again, and I hope that you concur that this would be a good idea to change the job description and bring in Terry Hagan essentially as a 40-hour work week from, I don't know, whatever point you guys feel fit, be it beginning of the year or henceforth.
Well, one of the challenges we have, first of all, even before we get into the discussion of the job requirements, is that if you're moving from a part-time to a full-time, we discussed this last year. If you want to change this position to a full-time position, that means we gotta advertise again, correct?
Well,
Like, put it up. We're changing.
Right now, Terry is, under our job description, a regular part-time employee. So regular means he works every week.
However, I do believe that the tests for someone like Terry, who's been out of school for such a period of time, some of the math would be, he'd have a struggle, with the math portions.
Well, I'm gonna expand on that a little bit, if you don't mind me saying. I don't know about anybody else in this room, but I sure as hell haven't built a house before. Takes a little math to do that. And Terry's built a lot of houses and stuff, to the point where, the GED, while I certainly appreciate where you're coming from, it is a relevant thing. Terry's life experience, or anybody's life experience, the same person as Terry, what he's done, as far as his professional career, it takes some knowledge to do that. I mean, I can't build a doghouse, much less a house in itself. So, I think that kind of supersedes that. And the other thing I want to interject, and this does get very Terryism, is that this man I think he's earned it. Okay, this is a really I'm going to go straight to the point that since I've lived here 20 plus years, as you guys all well know, Terry's been involved in everything. Now, I consider that experience. In just knowing how the city works. I didn't know that there was a landfill right along by the old water plant and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of wisdom that he can bring and maybe even share with Craig that Craig doesn't even know that I think is relevant. So I don't know. I want to make sure that we look at this maybe at a little bit different angle than just a piece of paper, and look at it as building an amphitheater, being on every committee there is within the city of Hartford, having the knowledge to help in any circumstance possible, and mechanically, I assume can run any piece of equipment that the city owns.
Well, Terry, you want to get put in?
Well, I just want to comment on maybe where this got started. So, last year when you hired me and stuff, and Doyle presented, and I explained to Doyle about my education side and stuff.
Yeah.
After talking about that and stuff, and then I started visiting with Scott a couple different times. My biggest concern, and being an employer for 28 years and having hired men and stuff, when there's something to be done, I want them to stay. I pay them for staying and stuff. And me and Craig have been getting along real well. Me and Jesse, me and Neil. And the last thing I hate on Fridays is bailing out at 2 o'clock because I got too many hours in. And I don't care if it's street work or digging a ditch. I've been able to work right alongside them all. And sure, they have sewer, water knowledge that I don't have, but I know where a lot of the sewer and water stuff is in town. So that's kind of where it's going and stuff. I just hate bailing out. And now Craig this year worked out real well. I kind of direct the summer help. Worked very well this year compared to last year. And Craig's busy. Craig's got a plate full and stuff. So we kind of worked out a deal that I instruct them guys, know where they're at day to day, and he doesn't have to worry about that. And it worked good this year. And with the mowing this year, you had to be on top of it. There was Saturdays I would have loved him and stayed on the mower and stuff, because holidays are coming on Monday, or we can't even keep up with 2 mowers and stuff. So that's kind of where this whole thing has gone. That I just want flexibility to go 40 hours if I have to, or 42 hours if we have to. Winter time with snow removal, I start first at 4 o'clock, and by the time I'm done, it's usually the last one because I'm cleaning intersections. So it isn't nothing to get 10, 11 hours in that day. So that's kind of where it's coming from. I just hate bailing on these guys because I work side by side with them every day.
And then last year when you brought on as part-time, I just wanna get this clear in my mind, you brought in part-time, you'd asked about, we tried to do this to give you as many hours as we could, that's where you went to like 39 max, I believe. It was just part-time to begin with, and it was, I don't know what the hours were to begin with.
30,
I think it's 30,
30.
and then we went up to
And
39.
then we agreed to go to
Just under
39
40.
on that.
And I'm satisfied with that, but it just, to me, it just ain't comfortable. When there's work to be done, somebody's gotta do it.
I agree, I mean, that happens, I mean, Terry, that happens in my
Neil
job too.
and Jesse, well, we're all creating a lot of overtime,
But
and I've never had, or not overtime, vacation time. I've never had vacation time in my life till now, but Craig's gone several weeks during the year, and Neil's getting to the point where he's gone, and, I mean, Jesse's needing help. And Craig's got his jobs to do and stuff, so it's just one of them gut feelings that I think that, I just want the flexibility. I don't feel, like Craig said, I don't feel, most of the time we all probably outside of Jesse, try to stay close to 40 hours, but you might have an hour or half hour over sometimes stuff. But I've been at 40 different times all summer and stuff. But
Greg, what do you do for water main, what the topic was brought about water main breaks and 2 man, do you try to schedule so that you don't have people gone, and you try to keep 2 people around all the time?
We're not on call, per se, but we always try to make sure somebody's around. And if it would come down to a time when there'd be one person in town, we'd have to hire first rate or somebody else to come in and do the digging for us. And then the guy would work alongside him. We try to do all of our own stuff. Last year, we had the water break out here, we had to hire that done because with the frost, we couldn't touch with our equipment anyway.
Okay.
Plus, we were plowing streets at the same time, so, there's some stuff you're just gonna have to hire whether you have a full
Sure.
crew on hand or one person around, so.
So is there times in your mind where you could see, I mean, like the episode you mentioned there, you had to hire it out anyway. Is there times when people were gone, when there was a water main break, or you needed 2 people, you didn't have 2 people, and you hired them?
There's been water breaks when I've been out of town, yeah, those guys had to do it. There's been times when Terry was just part-time, I had to have him come in and help us back, you know. It's, water mains are unforeseeable, you just can't predict them, same with snow, I mean, just like snowstorms this last year, if it looked like it was gonna snow on Saturday, you know, you hate to tell Terry to cut his hours back so he can work and be there on Saturday, then if he doesn't, and all of a sudden we don't get snow on Saturday, then he's short hours, you know. And, you know, Sunday's an easy thing, since Sunday's the beginning of our work week, so if it snows on Sunday, he comes in, but he could be done on Wednesday. And if we'd have another storm come in, then, you know, we either run short or we bring him back in, so.
Hey, Craig, I know we're past the budget time, but what's the need for an additional full-time and you know, on top of what Terry's already doing? Would that alleviate some of your snow issues in the winter too, if you had another full-time
The
person?
thing with us is for snow removal, it's just nice to have one guy on call or 2 guys on call to have him come in. If you have winter without snow, I mean, there's plenty of stuff we can find to do with 4 guys. I mean, if you start getting too many guys, then all of a sudden you're, you know, trying to figure out what to do. We went up from 2 quite a while ago and hired Jesse, and then it's been a few years ago when I got Terry brought on part-time, because we used to hire people just to help us mow in the summertime, but we're too busy to have unlimited hours for summertime work. I needed somebody to come in the spring and start helping right away, and then somebody to snow removal, somebody in the fall, so basically got to the point that we definitely need another person hired on, and that's when we jumped Terry's hours up to 39, and.
Well, I think, you know, maybe, I'm not all against looking at something, a different verbiage there, Scott. We need to have somebody need to figure out some verbiage before we.
I think, like Mark said, it's 2 issues. It's the verbiage, if you wanna change it in the current full-time job description, and then talk about the position, and if you wanna promote Terry within. You know, we revamped the employee manual about a year ago, went to a different format. I don't think we touched anything with that as far as hiring, but We should probably double check that, and we can look at that at the next council meeting, just to make sure how it reads, and that, you know, when we can just,
I think,
come on in.
as far as the job goes, I think we lose a lot of flexibility, because right now we're 3 full-time with 1 full-time, part-time that maxes out at 39 hours. And I think if we make the move to eliminate the full-time, part-time, and just make it a full-time position, the flexibility you gain with just the hours alone. Because the work's gonna have to get done, you know, so if it's, you know, if Terry's done on Friday at 39 hours, you know, when something happens Saturday or Sunday, I mean, you're bringing somebody in, you're bringing Craig in, or you're bringing Neil in, or you're bringing Jesse in, or you're bringing outside help in. Same way with part-time, I mean, if it's snow removal, I mean, you got part-time guys coming in, you're paying somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
you're only
and if you don't need the work done, then you're not paying anybody. So the money's a wash, because if you need the help, you're paying.
I agree with that, Mark.
So-
I do agree with that. It's just the verbiage of the job description going to, you know, high school or equivalent, and then saying like kind or like experience.
Yeah, I don't care what the verbiage is, and to tell you the truth, you know, I don't care if we make the verbiage to suit Terry, because I'll tell you what, the thing that's, I'm not here to toot Terry's horn, but when Central States came in and they had a laundry list of stuff they wanted, there was one person that knew what was in that ditch. And it's that guy right there. That guy knew what was in that ditch, and that helped bring Central States in there. What was in there? Water or electric? There was something in that
Water,
ditch.
gas, and all.
Yeah, so, you know,
I won't debate you on that at all, Mark. I know Terry's knowledge of this town
yeah,
is, it's hard to put anybody up against that.
yeah.
But I'm worried about the job description in the future. The next person we hire is a full-time employee position, and, you know, we gotta make sure we don't get ourselves into where it's subjective, and Craig can say, well, this person's got so much thing, and say, yeah, he's good to go.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that the city administrator research the verbiage for minimum qualifications under education.
You're doing the advertising thing too?
What's that?
Weren't you going to look into
See how
the
it reads as
manual
far as if we have to
and
advertise.
research whether it has to be advertised or not? Is that possible? If you're so inclined.
Yeah, had research hiring within.
Second.
Whether it has to be advertised. Promoting within.
I guess I'm gonna take a slightly different approach on this one. I agree with everything that's been said in regards to flexibility of hours, Terry, the amount of work that you do and the value that you bring to the table. However, I'm an advocate for education. Right now, Terry doesn't have his GED. And I'm not sold on the fact that Terry cannot successfully obtain his GED. Terry, I know 6-8 months ago, we've had this discussion somewhat, but I mean, you're a smart man, you have built houses, you understand how to run equipment. I think you can obtain your GED. And I don't think, or I would say that it wouldn't be right for the city council to consider lowering the expectations of a full-time employee to suit the needs of one individual person. To the mayor's point, I'm concerned what that does for future candidates of the position. I think having a high school diploma or GED is a reasonable expectation for a full-time employee of the city of Hartford as we do continue to grow. And I think if this acts as the kick in the pants for Terry to go get his GED, so that way he can qualify for health insurance, I think that would be a benefit to him in the long run. And I know that health insurance is, with your wife looking at retiring, is a key thing in his back pocket as well. So I guess what I'd like to do, instead of seeing us lower the bar, maybe we do something to help Terry obtain that GED. Whether it be we pay for tutoring classes or pay for fees for him to go take the test, allow him to do it on city time. I don't know what that answer is, but I'd rather help him grow than sell.
Okay. So the motion on the table, Karen?
Mark made the motion for the city administrator to research verbiage for minimum qualifications under the education portion of the job description and to research the possibility of promoting from within
Without advertising,
without advertising.
basically, right, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay,
Second by Scott.
second by Scott. So any other discussion on that? We'll vote for the research.
I'm gonna, you know, Brad, I agree with you, education is important, but I also think there's no better education really than life experience. I think something within the verbiage can read that, you know, we take special consideration of life experience over the GED or high school diploma requirement. I think it can be an and or, Scott, do you think so? I mean, I think it's an and, or it can be more of an and or
Sure.
type, because I'm looking at, that's kind of what we're saying with the, economic development director too. I mean, we got the and or, clause in there rather than need this, need this. I guess that's kind of where I'm at. You know, if we can just include an and or type of verbiage rather than, you know, it's all or nothing.
Would we be able to, I don't know if we can legally do this, put in that job description that may be a consideration after a certain length of employment? I don't know how long Terry's been an employee exactly, but if we said, you know, you're part-time for 2 years, and if you get past that point, we think you have the experience with the city itself.
I think you put anything you want in there.
Yeah.
I think whatever verbiage, I mean, yeah, that'd be the same thing, you know?
Just to clarify, the motion on the table is just to do some research, so let's get through that.
May want some-
Well, Mitch has some ideas for us in the next meeting, so we're gonna vote. Scott?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Brian?
Yep.
Brad?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Is there any correspondence? Had enough. Good. We're gonna get into the report. Start with Mitch.
Pool project, we were expecting to have preliminary design plans in November on that project. Capital plan, I've got a presentation, we've got the final documents there for you guys to look at. We'll come back to that. The water main extension project, they had the bulk of the work complete up there, they did their tie-in today. The line coming out of the tower. We had a pay request on that project tonight too. Maybe we want to approve that quick.
You have a pay request?
Make a motion for pay application number 1 and final to Missouri.
This is
You're
for
looking
the
at that, Lauren, you're looking at Metro.
Yeah, alright.
Or I'll make a motion for pay application number 2 to Metro Construction Incorporated, $315,300.45.
Second. Motion by Mark, second by Doyle. For the pay application, any discussion? We'll vote. Mark?
Yeah.
Scott?
Yes.
Brian?
Yep.
Brad?
Yes.
Doyle?
So on that project, they'll be, when they got some fine tuning and do some seeding out there and those types of things. We'll have a final inspection here in the next few weeks. And then we'll probably have a final pay request coming through another couple weeks after that.
Yeah, that main should be up and running probably by the end of the week if the tests come back here in the next couple of days. So they're all finalized, hooked up, and some that's already been passed as far as pressure testing. One of the back teeth tests passed here the other day. We got one more we're taking today for a half of it, and so they'll be working on the other half here to get it passed. So.
You know, I never asked this question, I don't think. That 16-inch pipe will get us our 1,800 gallon a minute.
1,500 gallons more. And then
That's
some.
what the contractor
That's
does.
what it is up to contract.
Yeah.
Will that pipe handle more than that?
Yeah.
What's the maximum gallon per minute that pipe?
Depends on how much pressure. I could Google that. I think I looked.
No, really, I mean, if we contract in the future for more, are we gonna be limited again by the pipe size?
Well, 16 inches is a big pipe.
Yeah.
I mean, most roadways like that. I mean, 16 inches is about as big as you get on.
But is that will that service 2,500 gallons then?
I'm thinking it'll be
I
probably.
don't know the gallons, but I expect that will serve you for a lot, 20 years. Yeah.
How many years?
I'd say 20.
So, I mean, it'll,
The 1,500 gallons a minute's a lot of water.
Oh, I know it is, but I'm sitting here thinking, I don't think I asked that question before, what the maximum flow rate of a 16-inch pipe is.
When we originally were looking at design it, you guys were thinking, what, 13 or 12 inch? And
Yeah.
we decided to step up because the price difference wasn't gonna be that much.
So it's upsized right now?
We upside.
Okay.
Yep.
Good enough.
we do, just maybe not everybody knows, but we do hydraulic modeling of you guys' system all the time. So we have a model in our office that tells us what size a lot of these mains need to be to support growth beyond what you guys have now. So that model told us that it needed to be a 12-inch, and we decided to bump it up even further to a 16-inch just for safety
That's a
factors.
good idea.
I told you to. Craig told me.
All the great guys,
Well, now we know I didn't have anything to do with it, huh?
The Mike Franken Trail, we did some illustrations for an alternate route through there. Sounds like they're on board with the route, from my understanding.
Yep, talked with Nancy at the state, on Friday, talked with her on the phone actually, and she had ran that, last route we had proposed, by the state and by the Federal Highway Authority, and looks like they will accept that plan, so, we're gonna move forward with that. You're gonna start checking if the delineation is okay, we got enough area delineated. We'll work on, getting agreement between the city and the school, and hopefully, maybe next year put it in.
Why are we looking at delineating wetlands if we're going around them?
There's the project that we originally called out where we had our delineator delineate. Where we're now crossing is outside of that project limit that she delineated in. I don't think there's any wetlands over there, but we just have to have her sign off that there aren't.
So it's further
Yeah,
down
we
the
just
road.
have to make sure that what we're gonna cross now.
So when you say delineate, you mean just to check and make sure we don't have to
Basically, yeah.
delineate,
Yeah,
okay.
we have to ensure that.
The South Main Edition, I've been in contact with the developer's engineer there, Twills and Mung, about the drainage along the east side of those properties. I don't know if anybody's been out there recently, but the water's kind of sitting back there, it's not getting out of there. So I had called them and asked them, what the issue is, what they think the issue is there. And it sounds like there might be an issue with the backyards that are constructed along Tessa, maybe are lower than what they planned them to be. So I just asked them to get a plan together to show us how they're gonna resolve the issue. I've talked to Teresa, we would recommend that you guys don't, approve any building permits in that area until we get this. Teresa helps us project what she thinks you guys are gonna have for, the end of the year in 2015, so that's what you're seeing on this side, over here. So you can see where your general funds estimated to be at and all the other funds throughout. That gives you an idea of what you have kind of sitting in the bank for reserves. The other side of the chart here is a breakdown on all those sources of revenue, and you can see through the last 5 years how they've, what they've done over the years. So you can see your property taxes steadily increased over the years. Your sales tax has kind of been back and forth a little bit. User fees have been pretty consistent. All the other sources are pretty consistent. Grants, that's something that changes every year. That's why there's spikes up and downs in those. See, the next page is talks a lot about your debt. What we try to do is get all the information in your guys' records of what current debt you had and loans out there that you're paying off. And we plot, this purple line is that debt line, and we give it a 1.5% growth rate, which is a pretty conservative growth rate. What you're seeing here is the tan ones are projects that haven't gone to special election. They can't exceed the 5% growth rate. The state allows you to exceed that 5% growth rate, or that 5% limit with a special election. You can go up to 10% on those projects if the need arises. You can only do it on special projects. I believe it's just water and sewer projects with the county your size. So those ones in red are past projects that you guys went through a special election at one time to get those above that 10% threshold. The second side over here is what we're proposing for debt based on the projects you get that we're talking about taking on in the next 5 years. So you can see those tan ones are still at the bottom. That's your existing debt. And each one of these different colors is one of those projects. And we bring it in and we assume a 3% rate on those loans. And the red, it stays to the top because those are still projects that can go through that threshold. Okay? So you can see as we take on these projects, we're running into that threshold. And this, we don't run into it until we get to year 5 here when we're proposing that big sewer project. So just looking at this at a glance, this tells me that when we get to that project, we might be looking at having to do a special election for that one to allow it to go over that 5% threshold. Make sense?
Tells me we should start planning for that, because we got 5 years.
We have a pretty healthy sewer budget, or sewer revenue.
Yep, we're gonna, next year's construction, we have the Mike Frickin Trail plan to get built, the pool improvements are being built. And we have Nicholson Road in there, we haven't budgeted for it, we're waiting to see kind of what happens with Bassing, I think. But we have that in the 2016 category. A lot of times when we do these, we make our best guess at what years these are gonna come about, so we can start planning and thinking about these things, but some of these projects might move to the next year as time goes on. It just depends on what the need arises.
Can I ask you a question about that quick?
Yeah.
On Nicholson.
Here, so you can see a little bit more of some of that. So like the rec trails project, you can see that, a large percentage of that is grant money. That's an 80-20 grant. So that's why this pie shape looks like this, and 20% of that is coming out of the general fund. But a big portion of it's coming out of the, grant money. The pool project, a lot of that's coming out of the general fund we had. There's a pool fund, isn't there, that probably actually
Yeah,
comes
this
from.
is the money we budgeted for the pool.
And 14% of that is grants on that project. So it gives you a little bit more of a breakdown. You kind of see what we're estimating for costs in regards to sewer and water and streets and those sorts of things on each one of these. So when we get to Nicholson Road, that's what that project looks like. Is the bulk of this project is going to be through loans. When we were evaluating your debt charts, what we found, your water fund and your sewer fund are pretty healthy. So we're probably going to start bumping a little bit more money from the water fund towards these projects to try to keep that debt low. When we first did this, we only had, short of $100,000 in there from the sewer, but once we started bumping that up.
Lease to own or just lease?
End up on back in Old Town.
But I think that way it keeps out of your debt.
Yeah.
Doesn't show up on your book as debt.
Yeah. What some people do, when they start talking sewer and water, and they'll do certain surcharges on there too, that a surcharge doesn't go against your debt, from what I understand. Like if you did a plant, sewer plant for some sort of a water tower, you could actually put that back on your bill as a surcharge, and then I don't think that counts as debt. Well, you guys you don't have any of that in place. I've noticed some towns are starting to do some of that just to avoid the debt situation. So that's kind of what our big projects look like.
What year do you have Nicholson in?
Nicholson,
We have it next year.
But it's all Aspen, or developer driven. If Aspen does something, it'll probably get pushed ahead.
Craig and I have been talking about possibly some upgrades, but we're trying to look a little bit further down the line too. We're thinking that as we reach a capacity on these, we probably might be looking at another site for some sort of treatment facility. So we put kind of some money in the budget just as a placeholder for. I think we put $1 million in there just for maybe improvements, maybe buying some land somewhere. That's kind of what it's in there for.
Just out of curiosity, means I brought up the water treatment plant. Is there any way to put a rudimentary mechanical plant in front of the ponds to get more?
Yeah.
To get more life out of them?
Yeah.
Mark's been Googling it.
Yeah. There's
I still think you're running with your you're gonna get your algae, the cleaner it is, the more algae growth you're gonna have on a pond. So you're still gonna have, I mean, right now, we're good and clean when we get to number 3. But
We
as
don't
soon
want
as
algae?
algae gives your TSS bumps up, it can affect your ammonia, I mean, it's.
You don't need to talk down to me, Craig.
You use all those certifications on you.
No, we've
You
been
know, if you put it
helping.
on the end of the plant or the other
Well,
side.
I mean, honestly, you know, I had the pleasure of sitting at the table when we did that. And nobody ever thinks about it, but I still think that's one of the best decisions that Hartford ever made. And I never thought I'd be sitting here when we're talking about that thing being full.
Yeah, that was 13 years
It
ago.
was a long time ago.
That was before I started.
But I mean, honestly, when I think about it, I mean, where do you go with it? You can't go east.
That's what we're kind of thinking.
Yeah.
about that.
You know, we're working with Brandon and Harrisburg are kind of in a similar situation. They're in a more immediate situation. They're in a more immediate situation, but we're helping them find a site. If you're gonna make a big investment like a plant or an addition like that, you know,
But I mean, the thought of having 2 different sites to me just,
We're looking at maybe just having a mechanical plant on the
Right.
future. So we've been kind of discussing that to see if what.
and getting away from this?
And, because by the time we get to that point, this would be completely outside.
Obsolete.
And at that point, it'll be prime land to sell off again. So we're just weighing the options and that stuff, and once you dump it and you clean it up, it's no, we've been looking at a lot of options, we're taking a look at all, trying to see what's gonna be best for the future.
just to get through the rest of these, you know, Vandermark Avenue road project that we have on it, that's 3 years out, we have closed. Ironwood Drive is on the left, the future connection from Nicholson Road to the railroad, or to Railroad Street, that's on the right. You know, this will probably again be acid driven in a lot of ways, so.
I'm gonna back you up on Ironwood, you know, we got our $80 frontage footage, there's no assessment there for those folks on Ironwood that are wouldn't apply, is there?
No, there's nothing in escrow right now for that.
Okay, thank you, go ahead.
But they could vote that project out too, though, right?
Yeah.
You can put this in assessment, they could,
So, help me understand, I guess I don't understand. The street's already done, so why would there be an assessment?
The life of the street consistently is about 20 years.
Okay.
So after 20 years, you can legally go back and assess the homeowner again, if the city would choose to do so.
Okay.
That's one thing we've talked about with the streets coming up, and maintenance is whether we have to put some type of a maintenance fee on either footage or property or whatever to help pay for reconstruction of these streets, or even just doing the maintenance of them.
A lot of towns are facing the issue of funding streets because there's never been a real good mechanism for putting money aside. The state used to cap you on a maintenance fee, which capped at 40 cents a foot. Well, the reality is if you want to if you want to be able to reconstruct your streets, I mean, you need to set that at probably $5, $6, $7, you know. I mean, we're working with Brandon again, and they're setting theirs at they got theirs at $1.25, and they figured that's only gonna pay for chip seals in their town, and that's it. So now if you start having projects that need mill and overlays or full reconstruction, you know, that money doesn't touch those projects. So now you gotta come up with another way to get those projects funded, and some towns might assess on a linear basis, or they might try to increase that maintenance fee.
So like Dell's, Brandon, T, Harrisburg, pretty common practice to have the residents reassess for street construction.
You know, I'm finding that a lot of these towns are kind of getting to the point where they're coming back to these roads. You know, over the last, you know, Hartford was one of the first towns to really rebuild all their streets in the area. So, and you know, that was an accomplishment that you guys made over 15 years. And when you go to, you know, I live in Del Rapids, and there's not a lot of streets that actually they're still chip seals. You know, they're just blockers that have been built up. So they've never really had projects where they've gone and assessed those projects. So there's not a lot of towns in that position where they've assessed the roadway. Now they're thinking about assessing it again or reconstructing it again.
How old's Ironwood?
Ironwood was put in probably in 97, 98, somewhere in
So
there.
that could be reassessed.
And the thing is with Ironwood, that was prior to really doing good inspections on them and.
That was prior to a lot of things.
Yeah.
But that assessment only, I mean, that value, what, is $80 a foot? Is that what it is? For the assessment, right?
Yeah,
Right now,
we-
it's at $80.
It's at 80, I mean, I don't
It's not
think,
even touch
it's
it,
not gonna touch the total cost. It's still-
especially when you're looking at storms.
Not if you're gonna redo the road.
Right.
The $80 is actually, we just evaluated it for Lennox again. It was, last year's 80 is bumped up to like 90, maybe 100 or so, but that pretty much gets you a standard street, asphalt, gravel underneath the curb and gutter. That pretty much gets you there. It probably doesn't get you maybe the driveways and having to replace driveway porches or sidewalks, but it gets
That's
you.
just for
We need
the
storm
street
sewer, too.
resurfacing.
Yeah,
It's
no
not for if you
utilities.
redo
Sorry,
any
no utilities.
infrastructure. Yeah.
If we have to have storm sewer in there, then that's above and beyond, which we would on that project.
Yeah.
There's not up there, is there, stores?
Teresa was gonna touch on that in her commentary about the linear foot, something we really talked
Yeah, I
about.
put a little bit in the lip here, some of that.
And then as Mitch said, it's a good thing in Hartford looking forward and getting all these streets put in, but also streets last 20 years before they start
Yeah. We're gonna see, on a good street, we'll see 25 to 30.
Yeah, you'll see, yeah, it's a good maintenance program, which I'm sure, I mean, it's, what is it, 7 years
Yeah.
seal, 7 years seal, and then you might be doing a mill and overlay, not a full reconstruct. And you know, if you can, 30 years is what we're really hoping to get out of these streets that are built properly, maintained properly.
Okay.
And we're still, you saw, we're under our debt limit, so I really feel we're in a pretty good position that way.
This is just water though?
That's what your water fund. Oh, and that also includes, that water fund includes taking a little bit more money out of there and putting it towards those street projects, 200,000 on each one of those projects, so.
Okay.
Are the 2% annual increases, is that an ongoing thing, or was
Yep.
there an end date to that, that was something that was
No,
ongoing?
it's just been set in it each year, 2%.
That was something
water.
we implemented 2 years ago too, because I don't think you were.
We had that for a while in the water. We didn't have it on our sewer, and 2 years ago, we implemented it on our sewer too.
I'd just be curious what that number, especially being about Craig's talking about a mechanical plant.
Well, this, so you can see where your sewer funding and all that projects out to. This does include that big project in, I think, 2000.
Which big project are you talking about?
The sewer extension project, $5 million extension project.
That's showing the $5 million project?
And we projected this out further too.
Well, what are you looking at, a 30-year bond?
It'd be a loan. I mean, we had a,
Yeah, but I mean, you gotta be very.
We'll have to inspect it and see if we have to lower it or completely shut it down, so we'll be looking at that this summer and see what we gotta do with it. Striping, we've been trying to get freed up to a full day to get the striping done, it just seems like every day something comes up, so we haven't had a chance to do it. Hoping this week we'll get a chance to get out there, get that finished up or get started on Main and done. I was working on some trucks, got some salt sand, we got a little bit of budget money left from this year to haul some more salt sand, we do have some on reserve, so we're in good shape through the rest of the year anyway, until next winter, and we'll continue hauling and stuff like that, get it hauled in for winter. Still got some sidewalk to do, long sidewalks is, Teresa and myself be going around next week maybe.
Keeps getting pushed back a week, hopefully before the snow flies, we'll be
To
inspecting
do some
sidewalks.
inspections, yeah, and that's all due to insurance and stuff like that, so take care of that. Water and sewer, metro construction, like we talked about earlier, they got that wrapped up, or just about wrapped up, they should be just about done this week with it, except for the seeding and that and grading, that really looks good, they've been doing a really good job for us. Red Feed, we did get the water and sewer brought into that park we just annexed, the only thing we have left to do is just install a meter, and that's just a matter of coordinating with the owner of the property to get that put in and see if he wants the water out this time. Park and pool, we're gonna winterize the one bathroom by the skate park, I don't know if they've got a chance to do it today, but if not, this next couple days, we'll get that one done. And then as soon as the weather starts to turn, we'll be winterizing the rest of them. We're getting to that point now where the kids are starting to do a little more vandalism with them, so the sooner we can shut them down, the sooner we will. I'd like to keep them open as long as we can, just for the general public. I mean, you're always gonna have some vandalism, it's just matter, it's always nice to shut them down, so. Broadleaf, we sprayed all the parts of broadleaf, sports complex, all that stuff's been sprayed and done. Everything's, the sports complex grass is really looking good out there, so that's good. They did do a little touch up on some areas, we have a couple rocks that were sticking up a little bit, we got them dug out and some dirt thrown in there, seed thrown in there, so everything should be good for next spring. Little trimming to do yet, and we should be ready for winter, so That's what we got.
Any questions for Craig?
What's that bridge, 3 ton?
5.
That's a 5-ton bridge?
You know, it's kind of a pain to
Who,
maintain.
did they put that classification out when it got inspected?
When we got turned over to us from the township, they didn't have any inspections for quite a while on it, because according to the county, it wasn't a bridge, it was a culvert, because their inspector said it was 19 foot 6 inches, and has to be 20 feet or larger to be considered a bridge. Well, when we had our inspection done on it 2 years ago, it was classified as a bridge, and they recommended 5 ton on it. And I think it's gonna be
The
less than that.
inspectors recommended that?
Yep.
Who inspected it? A private company?
Bros did, yeah, an outside engineering firm. I have a feeling when it gets inspected this next time, it'll be
Well, I know that, how long is the inspection good for?
2 years, is what they recommend, I think it's right, 2 years.
Because I know if you go over it and you're overweight, and you go through it, that's your problem.
Yep.
But if you go through it and you're underweight, I assume that's our problem.
But it's gonna be inspected, we got budget money for this year for it coming up
Yeah.
for 2 year, and I, like I said, been,
But I mean, theoretically though, we could post anything we want,
we can, yeah.
so why don't we do that? Why don't,
If we have to get our skid steer across it,
your skid steer doesn't weigh 10,000
I
pounds.
bet you it's close. I think it's right around that 4 ton, 45 or something, yeah. You ought to try to maintain that thing, I have to back a half a mile with a maintainer to get down that
That Nicholson Road project, in that estimate includes culverts up there, and culverts go down. So if we do that project, that'll,
I would love to shut that road down right now.
You guys are just full of great names too.
Okay, if you join?
Think we got a crowd now.
I'll answer the Tony though.
Alright,
We'll see what does next summer. It depends on if Aspen's gonna do something, we ain't gonna waste the money having it inspected, we'll just get it taken out. So.
and for that, Aston, when are they were they planning to come to us in January, February, do you know, have any got a feeling for?
I think it sounded like this fall they were gonna work on their, plan, kind of present what the plan's gonna be. They'll come and present it before, our engineers and us, their concept plan, and yeah, see what they'll be asking for or not,
Okay.
and then we'll come to the council,
Anything else for Craig? Thank you, Craig. Darren?
Yeah, my report, I just included the general fund balance as of the end of September for you, and where we're sitting with sales tax revenue as of September compared to last year. The committee fund balances, gave you those. I'll be processing the council's semi-annual payroll on Friday the 30th. So your deposits will be in your account on Monday the 2nd. I've included the attendance chart if you want to glance over it and make sure I have all your meetings appropriately marked. If there's any corrections, just let me know. And the calendar of events for October and what I know for November.
Could you add, unless it's going to be contingent on Governor Dugard, annual meeting for the Hartford Chamber of Commerce, everyone in this room is invited, November 19th, 6 p.m. at Embers.
And that's all I got.
Any questions for Karen? Thank you, Karen. Teresa?
Okay, just a few updates that weren't on the agenda. With the chamber and economic development position, I'm continuing to adjust the day-to-day calls, messages, inquiries that come through the office here. Once again, still checking his email and his phone messages, helping anybody that has any questions, like I said, that come in day-to-day. Still attending the chamber meetings and HABC meetings. Both groups have been very good to work with during this transition. We've already discussed, where the vandal marked lots are sitting that have kind of just come to a head here the last few days. I've had a couple people inquire about different land around the area, and have a couple projects that they're looking at right now, just seeing what sites we have available, and the cost of those, so I've been working with them. I've kind of listed, just so the council knows, some upcoming meetings, and in relation to that, there's a housing meeting coming up this Thursday. Makita has their monthly meeting, we meet every month, that's coming up on the 22nd. Plus Makita will have an annual meeting on November 5th. HADC is gonna be sponsoring a developers meeting, and we're gonna be inviting basically a lot of the local developers, retailers, marketing groups or what.
I mean, it had that idea behind it, was a lower rate, cause the rate was like $60-70 a foot was the actual cost of building those streets, maybe more than that.
And the $49 was to entice
It
people.
was to entice people to come in and sign a petition.
Yep.
I don't know that you ran into a situation where you forced a project on someone, and I don't know what you would have done in that situation, maybe that was the intention.
We kind of enforced some because they jumped on, so their footages would make it along some other properties.
What you said is if you come sign this petition, you'll get locked in at that rate. We don't know necessarily when we're gonna get there, but you're locked in at that rate. And you got so many people coming in and doing that. I don't know if you had to force it.
Mark, do you want that copy of that put in the next packet? Review?
Well, I'm just curious because,
I mean, we're gonna review that ordinance, but in the ordinance, it doesn't address petitions. It just says if the city wants to assess a property owner for new street construction, we can assess it up to $80.
we can only assess up to $80?
Well, I don't know if it says up to, or we can assess it $80 per linear foot.
Because we
See,
didn't
I'm
change the word
confused,
to
because I don't think that's how it initially started.
I think it is, because the only thing we changed from the initial ordinance when we bumped it up was the amount.
Well, put that in, I mean, if we're gonna review it, that's fine, but, because when they did my street, I wasn't locked in. There was no just some arbitrary number that 6 people came up with. It was just whatever the cost was divided by the footage.
Well,
The first two they did.
Yeah,
that.
and then we capped it at 49 and 50.
I had Richard Brower do my street there on Sixth, and it was, he came to us and wanted to do it, and we said, no, the landowner's like, no, we're gonna have the city go ahead and assess it and get it done, so it's bonded and everything, but Brower was gonna try to just put it in it and just break it up by per foot.
The first few ones they did, it was like you're saying, and they got, what happened was year to year, the price would fluctuate so much, some people would be paying $70 a foot one year, and the next people would be paying $90 a foot the next year, just difference in material, and construction costs might be a difference in the type of project. So then the council at that time said, let's just get something that's a flat rate for everybody.
So when we review this, we don't need to review it. See, because if I were to review it now, I would be looking at a number that would give somebody an incentive to do it. But we need to be looking at it as what the actual costs are gonna be.
That's what I'll
next
help you
year.
with. I'll help you with that.
Yeah, because that's when we did bump it up a couple years, I mean, that's, now the cost is $200, $250,
That's
whatever you
what
gave me,
Yeah.
would be a foot, so I mean, the cost has
How much?
significantly increased.
That's, so you have to divide that.
Yeah,
So it's just
100%,
like
125%.
Yeah, well, that's a whole street, but,
Because I always looked at it as an incentive.
That's what originally came out was an incentive to get the
which, at
streets done.
$80 would still be an
So
incentive.
now,
even at
so now
versus-
it's just turned into a number that if we do your street, this is what you're gonna be assessed. This calendar year.
Could be assessed.
Could be
could be.
assessed, if you
I
choose
didn't-
to implement it, yeah, it doesn't say you have to.
And like you said, it's probably more for the developers now, because they would come through and say, well, I'm gonna pay that money up front now, and not have to worry about paying more. That's when we jumped it up to the 80 a couple years, or a year
Yeah.
ago.
Like Kelly Point
Because
has
they were
money in the
buying
bank at the
for
$49.50 a foot that's sitting there, so we can't assess them when we do Mickelson 80, they already got that
Yep.
locked in at.
Because they bought in
Yep.
cheap.
Yep.
And that was just to stop anybody else from buying it cheap and bumped it up some and moved, so.
Yeah. But yeah, in November, I'll have the ordinance in there, you can review and talk about it some more. And then, I also, like, we kind of touched on too, think about, maintenance fee possibly, whether we want to implement something. I'll keep gathering some information from other towns that have done it. There are different ways you can do it. It's like the assessment fee, so much a linear foot for your front footage, or per lot, or, like I said, there's different ways you can
And give a break for, and figure out a way to give a break for people with corner lots.
The couple towns that have, replied, they said on corner lots, all they do is assess the part of the street that's addressed off of. So it's only one side is what
Very good.
theirs read, so, you know, which would make sense. You'd hate to cover corner lot twice.
See,
Do you know how many miles of street we got in town, Mitch? Is that in your computer?
I've got it wrote down, or
Figure
figured
get
out.
an idea next time we talk
Million
about
miles, yeah.
how much this would
But
generate.
like we were kind of discussing, and I've got my own opinion about that, is I think we need to assess, and Teresa, like Teresa said, is per lot or something like that, or per household or something like that, because we're getting so many apartments, those people aren't gonna pay anything, and, you know, they got a small little frontage outside, and there's, you know, 5, 6, or 8 plexes in that area. They're not gonna pay the same thing that somebody else has to pay in town. Everybody's using the streets, everybody should pay for them.
So what do you suggest if it's two different rates, one for single-family residence and one for multifamily?
That's something they'd have to work, but I just think that I think the front footage isn't fair across the board for everybody in town. I think it should be something fair because everybody uses them.
Like that, or just per parcel, per lot, or however you wanna do it.
So let's just get some more information from other towns, and we'll talk about it
Yep,
next meeting.
as I get some more information,
Not a
something
big
we
hurry,
can talk,
but
yep, we can talk about that in the future. And then in their packet is, Paul Clark's code enforcement report for you. One thing that did come up just this afternoon is I had a lady who is a part of the board for the Hartford Cemetery, the one along Highway 38. She came in today and she says that, their board is thinking about planting some trees basically between the cemetery, it'd be on their property, but that would line the cemetery and the bike path going between, you know, the cemetery and bike path. And they kind of want to use it as a fundraiser to maybe have people start raising money, and donate trees or whatever. She just wanted me to ask, you can't take any action or whatever, how the council would feel, maybe wondering if the city would donate a couple trees toward that. The trees would be about, she thought, $150 to $175, depending what type they put in there. But I guess I just getting the feel from the council if this is something you would entertain or not, or. I said we
That's
can't
not,
take any
is that in
action.
city limits?
No, it's not city limits, but, I mean, it'd be a longer bike path, I mean, it would look nice, rather than, but, you know, I know some.
I don't see it, they should be able to plant some trees.
There might not be room for them either. I think their fence is right on their property line, and that means they'd be in the DOT and
They won't let
you'd have to go through.
So they wouldn't put them on the outside of the fence?
And I think it'd still be on DOT property, which is gonna happen.
So they may not have room, she just is starting to think about this, and.
Sounds like an Eagle Scout project.
I think, yeah, that would be a good thing for it, yeah, something like that, so. Okay, I just wanted to touch on that. And I guess the last thing I do have it on the agenda is that, this week, the Planners Conference, South Dakota Planners Association, puts on a conference every year. We, encourage the Planning and Zoning Board to go through a lot of different stuff, topics on that. Bob Vander is gonna go to both days this year. I haven't got confirmation from anybody else on the board. I would like to go just Wednesday, it's Wednesday and Thursday next week. I put the agenda in there, I think Wednesday sounds like something that might be beneficial, Thursday not so much, so wondering if I can get permission to go to that on Wednesday.
I moved to allow Teresa to go to the South Dakota Planners Association meeting on Wednesday.
Second. Motion by Doyle, second by Brad. Discussion? We'll vote. Mark?
Yeah.
Scott?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Brad?
Okay, that's all I have.
Can I go back to Mitch real quick before we move on?
Sure.
Can you give me a number for 2020 without that grant in the sewer project?
Yeah. Yeah, like that spreadsheet. That
Cause you were showing 515,000, I think.
yeah, I mean, all it means is if you don't get that grant, you're gonna be borrowing more money, so it won't.
So that number won't change, it's just
Not really, it just means that you're affecting your debt limit, is what it really does.
Not so much a reason.
Depending, I mean, cause you can put, we still had like $500,000 in cash being paid on that project too. So, you can, the more money,
You got this down for $1 million cash,
yep,
$2 million grant and $2 million in loan. And I think that plan is drastically gonna change if you have $4 million in loans with $1 million cash.
Yep, you'll be loaning more money if you don't get that grant. You have to loan whatever they do.
So you're gonna bond twice as much, but the balance in the sewer fund's not gonna change?
Doesn't have to, I mean, we could,
Because they're not using sewer funds paid for.
Yeah,
It's consistent.
Well, you got the debt service coming out of the sewer fund, though.
I mean, the other option was to raise your rates on sewer and gain more cash now to pay more of it now. Or at that
No,
time.
that's just,
That'd be other.
it's 5 years away, but I hate to bank on a $2 million grant in 5 years. Cause we could sit on our thumbs for 5 years and not get that grant. That's coming from the Fed or the state?
Be state revolving fund.
We can look at, budget time, allotting stuff for that too, right?
Well, and what you really need to do for that project is you plan early for that project. So, I mean, that's why we had that $1 million in 2 years.
Yeah, but I just soon plan like we're not getting a $2 million grant instead of planning like we are.
And I can,
Cause if we plan like we're not gonna get it, and we do get it, then the plan just gets $2 million better.
Yeah.
But
Like I said, if you don't get it, it's gonna just mean you're gonna have to have a higher loan, which probably have to go lower than people, you have to go to your 10%.
okay, so let's say you go to an election and it gets turned down.